what happened in between Michelangelo and today is this story of the starving artist that has sort of infected our understanding of art and creativity. And just like you said, you read this story about Michelangelo and it surprises you. It surprised me. Yep. It surprises us because culturally we still think that artists should starve. And the argument of the book is you don't have to thrive, but whether or you don't have to starve, but whether you thrive or starve is ultimately a choice.
That the concept of a starving artist is just one more little piece of history. And I think you document this in the book. Is from Paris around La Bohème, the Bohemian lifestyle. And is it just, I don't remember the details, but it was just that, wasn't it glorified, like you're struggling so much for your art or something like that, and that's what made it worth the struggle? Was it for people who were telling themselves that they were still worthy, but they weren't willing to put in all the real work to be a successful artist, or what was the context there?
Yeah.
Like in a sense, the question is, where does this horrible myth that so many of us have lived and fought through, and so many who are listening right now are going, oh my God, that's me. Yeah. So where did that come from, and how can we put it down?
So I call the story of a starving artist a myth, not because it's untrue, but because myths are stories that we tell ourselves that help us make sense of our reality, right? So every Christmas morning, presents appear under the Christmas tree magically. So parents tell a myth about Santa Claus, right? And there are religious myths, there are political myths, there are historical myths that help us understand our reality. They can be true, based on truth, or not. But when you believe a myth, it affects the way you understand reality and in the universe and your life. And so what happens is this guy named Henri Murger in the mid-19th century his dad's like a janitor and his mom's like a seamstress. And he wants to be a writer, and he's surrounded by, I mean, this is the 1850s. So Impressionism, I mean, lots of really cool stuff happening in Paris at the time. And he's surrounded by creative geniuses, and he wants to be one of them. And so he tries to, write some stuff, and it doesn't really go so well for him. And a little bit of literary success, no commercial success, and he's frustrated about it. So what he writes is these series of short stories that basically become eventually the opera La Bohème and Rent and these other things afterwards. Moulin Rouge are all kind of based on this story of these artists who are struggling, living in poverty, and the poverty makes the art better, is sort of the message. Yeah. He is telling himself a story. We all do this. He is telling himself a story to help him make sense of the reality around him. And what is that fable, The Fox and the Grapes? Fox tries to get the grapes, can't get the grapes, tries to get the grapes, can't get the grapes, goes, I don't want the grapes anyway. That's the starving artist story. Yeah. And if we try something and we don't succeed at it, we go, well, that's not real art anyway. And he's a sellout because he's making a bunch of money. It's a way to sort of soothe ourselves. And so all I wanted to do with this book was tell the other side of the story. It is equally true, perhaps even more true today. But we have to be willing to part with some deeply held beliefs based on the stories that we tell ourselves. One of my favorite people is a guy named Thomas Merton, who is a Trappist monk, and he says, he talks about the false self and the true self. And he said, the worst kind of illusions are the ones that we believe about ourselves, and those are the hardest to let go.